Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I greet you according to your time zone. I'm so excited that you are able to make it to our Advocacy and Human Rights course. This training is brought to you in partnership with JED Legal Consults and BBPRI. My name is Jennifer Abaji and I'll be your lead facilitator. Okay, in the next 2 seconds, what comes to your mind when you hear the word advocacy? What comes to your mind? Think about it. When you hear the word advocacy, what comes to your mind? Okay, just put it on the chat box. Put it on the chat box. We want this course to be as engaging as possible. So please, I want to hear your response. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. What comes to your mind when you hear the word advocacy? Okay, you are all right. There's no right or wrong answers, like I said. So, advocacy involves seeking justice for those who maybe are poor, those who are vulnerable, those who are oppressed or treated unfairly. Advocacy is an organized process. It is planned and strategic. You know, a lot of people mistake activism for advocacy. I won't go into that now. But advocacy is a planned process, it is organized, so it's not just a one-off event. Okay, I see some people say awareness. Yes, as part of your advocacy, you can have awareness as part of your activities towards advocacy, but advocacy would require a whole lot of activities. It is organized, it's not a one-off event. It aims and desires to have a flexible outcome. You have your goal, but you need to be flexible also, and sometimes you cannot predict how your advocacy can go. Okay, so advocacy involves asking why until you find the underlying causes of poverty or injustice, or what is it you are trying to solve. And you remember we said it's advocacy and human rights course, and it's for leaders. Leadership is for you. Providing leadership means that you are trying to solve a problem. You are taking people from point A to point B, which means that there's a reason why there should be that transition. So in advocacy, it requires asking why. Why are people hungry? Why are people why are people where they are, until you find the root causes of that issue. Advocacy is about being intentional. You need to find out, identify the changes you want to see. What do you want to see? What is there? Okay, first of all, and what changes do you want to see? What changes do you want to see? Advocacy has to do with a clear purpose, that seeks to elevate maybe poverty, challenges of injustice, changing the systems, structures, policies, decisions, practices, and attitudes that cause poverty and injustice. And sometimes there are no laws or policies in place. And sometimes, as leaders, we need to advocate and push for certain policies, certain environment to make things happen, to make things work. Advocacy is, I see people do a lot of things and they call it advocacy. Well, if you don't have a decision maker at the back end you are looking at to change their position, then it might not be advocacy. Okay, so get to decision making tables, and advocacy requires strategic planning. In advocacy is a deliberate process, like we said, based on demonstrated evidence. Yes, that's some of the key points that advocates and leaders fail to realize. You need to have a demonstrated evidence of what what is on ground and what you are trying to change, either directly or indirectly influencing decision makers. Yes, someone has to be there that their decision or inaction changes something, around say, let's say for instance, here in Nigeria the cost of fuel has gone up, and you want to organize an advocacy to change that. If you go to the filling station and you begin to talk to the attendant, fuel attendant, now, oh, this price is high. Oh, we can't afford it. You have to do something about it. Do something about it. What can a an attendant, fuel attendant, do about it? But you know where the cost of fuel is being discussed. You know who, for instance, is in charge, maybe the petroleum minister, or the key stakeholders in that are marketing uh, petrol. You can start your advocacies, and once there's a decision maker in question, then you are sure they are what we call champions. They champion the cause, and they ensure that when they take action, there will be a change from point A to point B, which is the desired position for leaders. Those in authority in our local, state, and nation whose policy, action, and inaction has direct or indirect effect on us, we call them champions, and those are the decision makers. So in every advocacy, if you want to succeed, you need to identify who are your champions. Who are those people you want to see make a certain decision that will make that shift to happen? Government at all levels, they are champions, representatives, senators, traditional leaders, men, women of influence. We call them all champions in advocacy. They must be identified and relationship built with them for goodwill, not for sycophancy like so many people do. And they say, yes, ma, yes, ma, yes, ma, just for the time. But when you build, as a leader, you build relationships because you want to say, okay, I have this evidence that shows that this certain in particular, in this state particularly, we are doing badly when it comes to children nutrition, or when it comes to accessibility for persons with disability. You need to come with your evidence and say, oh, I think this is what you can do. And when you are doing that as a leader, it is part of your advocacy efforts. Taking advocacy to the right audience matters a lot. It matters a lot, so that you can get that support, so that you can get that um, decision made to cause change. There are three main approach to advocacy. There are three main approach to advocacy. One is advocacy for. Advocacy for. Here in the Basilia Vulnerable Persons Rights Initiative, we are in this category because we advocate for the persons, we advocate for persons, vulnerable persons, and by vulnerable persons we are looking at women and girls, we are looking at persons with disabilities, and those are the people we advocate for. It simply means that you might not be in that category, but you desire a change for this certain set of people, so you begin to advocate for them. That is advocacy for. Now, advocacy with. The second approach, advocacy with, has to do with you are part of the population that needs that change to happen for yourself and with others. You join hands with other people and begin to advocate for that change you want to see. The last advocacy approach can be referred to is what we call advocacy by people. So advocacy by involves, it has to do with the people who are directly involved in this change that they want to see. For instance, persons with disabilities can mobilize and say, okay, we want an accessible Nigeria. We want to be able to access public places without being, without having to to need support When you begin to say, oh, we need to be in places without being carried, we need to be able to board on an aircraft without being lifted, without being having to carry us with human hands, this is advocacy with, sorry, advocacy by. So advocacy by. So I'll give you in the next few minutes, I want you to just say yes or no with a thumbs up emoji. Just look down. If you have ever been involved in any kind of advocacy, can you give me a thumbs up? I want to know if you have ever been in any form of advocacy. From the little I've said, do you think you have ever been actively involved in advocacy? Go ahead. I want to see thumbs up you for yes. And if it's no, I want you to use the heart sign, love. Yeah, so yeah, do that in the next 20 seconds. I want to know if we are together. So moving forward, we we will see that there are other people known as the champion. Sorry, we've talked about the champions earlier. When you are doing an advocacy, you need to map out your stakeholders. You need to map out your stakeholders. That means you need to have who and who will make things happen, who and who will make what happens. So we have champions, we have fence sitters, and we have the enemies. The fence sitters is they are neither here nor there. They are in between. They are not against you, neither are they for you. So what do you do with this kind of people? Remember, we spoke about champions earlier. Your work as an advocate is to ensure that champions are convinced to make that decision that they need to do to cause that change. Now, those who sit at the fence, they are passive. They don't really care about what you're doing. But in advocacy, you need to push them from being passive. You need to make them proactive. You need to make them want what you are doing and desire to cause the change. So they move from neither here nor there to the particular place you want them to be. So what do you do with the enemies? What do you do with the enemies? Uh, well, they are also stakeholders because they can be spoilers. They will spoil what you have started. So what you can do is you can network with their friends. You can have enemies whose friends are your friends. Yeah, not unlike in this part of the country, some people will say, oh, my enemy should not be your friend. But we find it a lot of times that they don't do so well in this relationship, but in another relationship they do well. Leverage on who you know that they respect, who you know that they can listen to. You can talk to them, bring them to your side, and through them you can get your enemies to get on with you on the same team. So I'll tell you a little story, and then we'll have a group discussion. And I want you to would leave the chat room open for you to give us how you will approach this. Okay, so in a particular community, let's call the place Eleme. There's this particular river there at Eleme. Every day, a group of people always get drowned in that river, and it's becoming a disturbing thing to you as a leader. Okay, why are people getting drowned at Eleme River? So as a leader, what can you do to cause that change? So I want to see it on the chat box. Quickly, 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 put it on the chat box. Are you going to go and learn how to swim and begin to save as many as you can? What are you going to do about the Eleme River that drowns people? Yes, I want to see that, and we'll respond. Thank you very much for joining us for this day one. I know that tomorrow would have richer time and we'll have interactions. I want to thank you for your time. And once again, from myself and the entire team at BVPRI, thank you so much for your time.